But last night's Eurovision saw Switzerland win the top prize, but several leading figures blasted the tone and content of the show. With a very good friend of mine, the star of the popular media channel Talk, Julia Hartley-Brewer, tweeting, "I've watched Eurovision for years. It used to be fun family viewing, but many of last night's acts were highly sexual, with some blatant sadomasochism or S&M. You don't have to be Mary Whitehouse to be aghast at the pornification of our culture. It's a long way from Bucks Fizz." Meanwhile, respected trade unionist and GBNews star Paul Embury said two bearded men, dressed only in basques, thongs and leather boots, dancing a salacious dance on primetime Saturday evening telly across Europe, with millions of kids watching. All totally normal, he says, with irony. The West is in safe hands. So has Eurovision become a sick, satanic sex fest? Easy for you to say. Let's speak to a former Eurovision star who was brilliant representing the UK in 2000, Nicki French. Here she is in action.
Don't play that song again, reminding me of how it used to be. Don't play that song again.
Now, that is what I call a performance. 12 points. Nicki, great to see you, looking so well. Was last night's show appropriate for a family audience?
A lot of people thought not. Let's be honest. There were an awful lot. I mean, there's always going to be the young ladies who, let's be honest, they've got great figures. But, I mean, the Slovenian one particularly in, like, just a body stocking and very little else. You know, I remember in my Eurovision year that the great departed Terry Wogan once said, "You can see what she had for breakfast." And it was kind of like that with quite a few of them last night. You know, on one hand, they're young girls and they've got fantastic figures. They want to show them off. Of course they do. But, I mean, to me, sort of being sexy is the suggestion of stuff. You know, you don't sort of show everything. You hint. And it did seem, I have to say, and yeah, everybody calls me a prude, so I'm probably not the right person. But it did seem rather overtly sexual last night. I mean, Ollie, bless him, he was true to his word, because when he first announced that he was doing Eurovision for us, he said, "I'm going to make it the gayest Eurovision performance ever." So, you know, he didn't let us down on that.
Let me say, you know, that's not a problem at all. I'm the ultimate libertarian. Sleep with who you want to. My total music hero is Elton John, the most famous gay man in the world. But he wouldn't cavort around in hot pants like that, you know, showing off his nether regions. Is there an attempt to normalise this kind of stuff, do you think? Does it feel like social engineering? I mean, Julia Hartley-Brewer said some of it seems like sadomasochism, you know, whips and leather and all that stuff.
There were a few, I mean, Spain and us, and, you know, there were a few like that. And a lot of them do this sort of gyrating now, the sort of sexual gyrating, which that turns me off at the best of times. But I think I'm hoping that it was just a fluke that they all did it this year. You know, in Sam Ryder's year, the Spanish entry had, like, you know, sort of boots right up to her thighs and left nothing to the imagination with her outfit. But there weren't as many. So let's hope that it was just a fluky thing, and, you know, all the different ones that were showing very much of their bodies, it was just this year. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I said weeks ago, give me someone that just sings a really good song with a really good voice, perhaps in a long frock, and I'll vote for them. And I have to say, my vote was for France last night. I mean, just the most amazing song and singer. And it didn't need any of these gimmicks. And that's what we need to impress upon next year's artists is that you don't need all these gimmicks to show off all your flesh.
Well, that's it. That's it. Well, that's what you did in the year 2000. You showed your music and your singing voice, not your bum. Let's bring in Edwina Currie, if we can, Nicki, and also Neil Parish. Edwina, I don't know if you caught much of Eurovision, but do you think some of that material that we've just played is appropriate for a family audience in the evening?
There was a lot of bum on show. Definitely. I was counting. I think I got up to about 47 cheeks at the point at which I went and poured myself another glass of wine. And Graham Norton was breathing hard, let's put it like that. It certainly had a lot of sexuality and not that many songs. I thought much of the music was very meh, but then, you know, I'm Liverpool Beatles generation, and I think actually the way you sing matters more than the way you wobble whatever bits you've got. But that said, it was highly entertaining. Great fun.
Yeah, well, there you go. So Edwina doesn't seem too bothered, Neil Parish. What do you think? Would you want sort of 10-year-olds watching this? Because Eurovision is not an adult show. It's aimed at the whole family.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just needs to go back to singing, and that we don't need as much dancing and flaunting themselves around. And I just wonder whether Eurovision Song Contest is just sort of going a little bit out of fashion, I think. And I think the trouble is they've just got to basically sex it up in order to try and get the audiences. And I think we just need to be careful on it. And I think it's a shame. And of course, there were the protests about whether the Israeli singer should be there, and all of this political stuff going on around it as well. So I think generally speaking, I didn't actually watch it.
Then how do you know?
But I've seen enough clips, Edwina, to know exactly what happened. And
A friend has told him. There he goes. Listen, folks, I wish we had longer. Nicki French, do come back and see us again soon. Let me tell you that Nicki's excellent album of Eurovision covers is out now, and it's a real lovely tunes on that record, so do check it out. It's simply called Eurovision, and Nicki will see you soon. Of course, Edwina and Neil will be back shortly.